really became interested in writing because of my mother, Vernell Mabry Mcintire. She was a product of the Great Depression and wanted to go to school and become a journalist, and didn't have $100 to keep paying her way through school. So she influenced me all my life to write, and she wrote all her life, and in her 80s was still publishing editorials in the Shreveport Times. So she was a real inspiration to me. And one morning, my grandmother was listening to baseball on the radio in Shreveport, Louisiana. And after that, she called me and said, "Martha, they're looking for a summer intern at KWKH Radio, and you need to go apply." I was the first woman journalist in the city of Shreveport, and that was the time that George Wallace was running for president. And all his assistants had said, no interviews, no interviews. And I went to the news conference that he was having, and I thought, I'm going to get that interview. And we conducted an hour-long interview. It aired the next day, and I was really, really proud of that. Then I went to LSU, where I started my undergrad degree in journalism. I studied there for 2 years and then went abroad to Aix-en-Provence in France because I just wanted to travel. And then came back and was accepted into the University of Missouri Journalism School in the broadcast section. I became a producer and director of the evening news, working the board. I ended up graduating in broadcast journalism, and then got my first job for a radio station down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana for WJBO. I became a reporter, and we had a newscast every hour. I loved that work. It was very stressful, having to produce stories. We were, yanking the wire, the UPI, and getting all the stories off, but I really liked it. It was such immediacy to it. I was in charge of doing a news interview show. And again, I was alone in the station, and I had already arranged the guests in advance. So that was a really good experience. Again, running the board was a very good experience. My wonderful news director from Shreveport, Ed DeForest, got in touch with his friend at WFAA, Travis Lynn. I went for an interview, and Travis hired me. At that time, we had an hour-long newscast. And in the mornings, of course, we had to, with the help of the assignments editor, Bert Shipp, we had to come up with stories, to do for the day. And that was very challenging. Before going to journalism school, I never realized I had to generate those ideas every single day of the week.
The death story of a 12-year-old Dallas boy began here at the Fena service station on Cedar Springs.
A young Mexican boy had been killed by a policeman, and there was a big uproar about it, and resulted in this demonstration in downtown in front of City Hall, a demonstration that turned into violence, a burning of motorcycles, other unpleasant things. But we were covering that. We had parked our vehicle in front of City Hall. It was out of the car filming, but things got really dicey. And my cameraman and I got back in our car, about to go back to the station, and all of a sudden the crowd surrounded our vehicle, came onto the hood, and started beating in with their shoes the windshield. Glass got all over me, and it was pretty terrifying experience.
The Texas Women's Political Caucus, meeting this weekend, intends to exercise some feminine muscle in this year's statewide election. In concrete terms, the Texas Women's Political Caucus intends to push women into the political arena, organize a women's lobby, and come out with endorsements for the statewide elections. The collective voice of this women's caucus is saying to all women, get your foot into that closed door and say to all men, Move over, our day has come.
I was covering the trial of John McKee.
So in another 2.5 months, Dallas's former crime commission president goes on trial. The 64-year-old McKee is charged with embezzling more than $6,700 from Texas Scottish Rite head Lee Lockwood and swindling almost $45,000 from Scottish Rite funds when he served as Lockwood's Dallas representative.
Covering the county jail. I found out that in the county jail, first-time young offenders were being put in the hard tank with the hardened criminals.
How do you train a dolphin to spin 16 feet into the air like an acrobat?
I decided to do a story about the intelligence of dolphins. I was to be in the water and I was drowning. And this dolphin was to swim past me with a life raft, and I was to grab onto it. I don't know if he slowed down for me or not, but I managed to grab the life raft and, he saved me. Then the end of the story was that I danced with that dolphin. He was trained to come up to the female trainer. I put my arms around him. He was vertical. I put my arms around him and he flipped us in a dance there in the water. It was the most marvelous experience. I really never felt any sexism. Everybody else was all the other reporters were making the same amount of money as I was. I never experienced sexual harassment. The field seemed to be opening up at that time for me, for women, luckily. And I was helped by so many good men. My first news director, my radio news director, was supportive and believed in me and gave me opportunities and, of course, helped me get other jobs. And then my other radio news director believed in me. And then when I went to Channel 8, there was never any question in my mind about being limited by the company or my news director because I was female. And I really felt that being female opened doors for me with getting interviews. City Hall, the courthouse, covering the state legislature at that time, was flown down to Austin. No, there was no bias that I could determine in the assignment of stories. Now, talk about a little bit of sexual harassment. I didn't have any sexual harassment, as I said, professionally. But being around these sheriff deputies, it was always, a little side remark, a little intimation and so forth. But you know what? I just laughed it off. Just laughed it off. That was a way to handle it to me, with humor. After several years, I decided that it was an unstable business. Heads would roll right and left depending on what the ratings were. I decided it was unstable business. Also, I wanted to make more money. And so I decided to go to law school. I left, never thought I would do that, but I've been covering trials there in Dallas, and I'd been covering even little city trials, and I saw what it was like to be a lawyer, so I thought, I can do this. So I went into litigation. I graduated, went into oil and gas litigation. Then I, got married and had children and decided, I think I want to raise my children and do things on the side in the community, but I need to really concentrate on my children. Then when my children graduated, I thought, what do I want to do with my life now? Ended up going to graduate school at the University of Texas at Dallas in their executive coaching program. And after that, they hired me to be on their team, their executive coaching team for MBA students. And I've been doing that now for the last 16 years. And also with my private practice, I coach in leadership, communication, presentation coaching, a variety of things. I think there was a certain lack of self-confidence I had. And getting into journalism, having the experience, such varied experience with all the stories I covered, and I had to be very bold. And I think that developed that self-confidence that I've never lost. I'm grateful for the time I had in broadcast news. It was a highlight of my life, and it was a blessing to me.